Warning, the following may contain subject matter that is not suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Episode 666.
Or just one. Welcome to Midnight at the Monster Museum. I'm Tom, and this is Jeff, and we are on episode 6. All right, Jeff. So, how's it going? Guess what I saw? I saw Endgame.
Oh yeah, what'd you think?
I loved it.
It's a great movie, right?
It is.
It took a lot of surprising turns.
Yeah, and you know what? It tied up everything very nicely. You know,
so many callbacks.
I like the awesome stuff. We've passed that official. There's an official date of spoilers, I guess, because of the Homecoming trailer.
Well, they announced it.
So I'm gonna give it
Far From Home, right?
Yeah, whatever it is. So I'm gonna give some spoilers, but I like that they even touch back to the earliest.
That's
Iron
what I think
Mans
is great, because I remember when you were, I don't want to say complaining, but when you were.
No, I had ups and downs with the Avengers series.
No, I mean
sure.
just the overall ideology of the cinematic universe. You're like, you know, what's the point? So, and it almost gave you a point in this movie to watching all the other ones.
It tied it back up,
Yeah.
and I like the callbacks, like the Tony Stark does have a heart, and
and it goes back to Bookin and I Am Iron Man.
Yeah. The complaints I have about it, or the complaints I've had from the beginning, is I still really, and maybe I'm wrong and I don't understand, I'm confused, but I don't understand where Adam Warlock is, because I feel like
he's not coming till 3, Guardians 3.
But I feel like he should have been a major integral part of this whole storyline, and if he's coming, why not have already come? So that bothered me. I hate CGI Hulk, and I hate CGI Thanos, but I love Practical Nebula. So it kind of.
I love Thanos.
I hate his arms. I hate the way
I
he
love
moves.
Hulk in the first Avengers. It's kind of like that though, because there's been other versions of Hulk that would have been great for this movie, but it would have made it easier to beat him. That's exactly why I'm thinking that they didn't put
last week's episode we touched on how unknown some of Steve Johnson's greatest work is, and I think one of the greatest things he ever did was he made a practical Hulk suit for the Ang Lee Hulk,
but I hate that Hulk.
It's not in the movie. It's a CG piece of shit in the movie.
It is.
He made a practical walk around Robo-Jock motherfucker Hulk that looked incredible, and it moved and it reacted and it was practical. They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars developing it. They scrapped the whole thing for a cartoon character that fits in a stupid movie.
Well, for the most part, of course, it is CGI, but not everything we see is always 100% CGI. They do use heads and torsos and arms and stuff for people to grab onto and get hit by and such like that.
Not a fan of, I love Hulk. I like Smart Hulk. I think he's cool. When I look at him, he looks like a cartoon character floating in a real world, and it bothers me. And but other than that, the movie itself was great. It was fun. I love the Ant-Man stuff.
That's the thing is like, what I say is I could go there and I could go, I wish this had happened, or I wish this happened, or I could. But the thing is when you think about it at its core, it's a culmination of 21 other movies.
Right.
And it's supposed to put a bow in a 3-hour time limit and make you feel satisfied. And they had an almost impossible job, but yet they satisfied the meat of the audience. So for that reason, I just put my hands up and go, you know what? I don't even bother about picking at it because.
No, it was pretty good. And it tears at the heartstrings, and it tied everything up well. I have no idea where we go from here. And
Well, technically, Far From Home is actually the end of the phase, not Endgame.
Right. It's weird too. Like one thing I like, I'm all for a cinematic universe differing from the comics. I don't really ever, like we had talked before about source material. I don't care. I already read it. Like I like what I read. I don't need to see. I don't need it to be verbatim. And I love this weird new lore. And you know, I haven't read Spider-Man since the late '90s, but the weird new lore I'm seeing of this fatherhood of Iron Man and Spider-Man, like that's not something I ever remember from being a kid.
He has mentored him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe prior to my involvement in the early '90s, like I got into
they read comics all the time.
McFarlane Spider-Man on. You know, that's basically.
Well, I mean, they even retcon it. He gets married to Mary Jane in the comic, and they retcon that where he had to sacrifice his marriage, and then it didn't exist in the comic. It didn't exist, and you know.
The weird thing is, I think Mary Jane looks real weird in that movie. Like when he's like,
well, she's not actually Mary Jane.
When he's like MJ. Oh, it's not Mary Jane.
I mean, she's calling MJ, but her name's Michelle. So.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't need it to follow verbatim.
It's like his buddy Ned. It's actually an amalgamation of two characters. It's Ned Leeds, who like his main lore comic, and then Ultimate Spider-Man, Miles Morales' best friend Gangi.
Okay.
Who's an Asian, a heavyset Asian guy.
Yeah.
So it's a melding of the two characters. So it's taking inspiration from multiple sources. So that way it is definitely source material, just not one.
Right. Well, good for that. I think it'll be good. And talking about awesome superhero amazingness, we're going to get right into our flashback feature.
The big green guy is back.
They call me Swamp Thing.
You're a plant, aren't you?
He's come back to settle the score.
Find him and bring him in.
He's got a grudge, cause they turned him to sludge.
I believe this is yours.
What?
The return of Swamp Thing. Starring Louis Jourdain.
What did you do? Sell your soul to the devil?
Let's just say he has a lease with an option to buy.
Heather Locklear.
She can get in my jeans anytime she wants to.
Why can't men be more like plants? I mean, you can stroke a plant and it doesn't get the wrong idea.
And Swamp Thing.
But I can't give you the kind of love you want.
Why not?
I'm a plant.
That's okay. I'm a vegetarian.
The return of Swamp Thing. He's turning over a new leaf for love.
Return of Swamp Thing. I would say it's Jim Wynorski's best movie he ever
It's
created.
his favorite movie that he created.
It's the best. I mean, Chopping Mall being a close second. I've gotten the opportunity.
I think Chopping Mall gets the most credit, like the most audience and stuff like that. But
and the thing is with Jim, so I got to work with Jim Wynorski a couple of years ago. I've gotten to know him before that through some festival stuff we used to do in Indiana together. Awesome guy, super short-tempered and absolutely no patience for making feature film work that takes more than one take. That's, he's gotten more into the Skinemax softcore stuff. So knowing his current product and what he's actually doing, when I watch something like Return of Swamp Thing or Chopping Mall, it's super, super impressive because those movies are on par with some of the greatest 80s, the stuff that Joe Dante was putting out,
I think the Chopping Mall is better regarded because everybody knows exactly what it's supposed to be.
Right.
But particularly since it's so different in tone from the first movie, I don't think people understand what kind of
What
movie
Swamp
there's.
Thing was.
Yeah, well, I don't think they understand what Return of Swamp Thing is supposed to be.
Right.
You know, it's clearly a callback to a lot of more campy 50s type of horror stuff, and correlating to it's deliberately sillier. I mean, it's trying to be
Right.
campier, and
Well, it has that 90s comic book camp humor, and
yeah, I mean, they even had the page turning in
Yep.
the frame.
So before we started the podcast about 4 days ago, I'm buddies with Daniel Emery Taylor, who's the small, pudgy ginger boy who is Opie, you know, and he's awesome. He's awesome. But I messaged him and I said, hey, man, we're doing the podcast. We're doing Return to Swamp Thing on our Flashback Feature. I'd love to have you on a phone interview. And he just couldn't make time on the schedule right now. So he is actually a budding director and very busy. And but I just thought it would have been awesome to have him jump on here and just throw in some quotes or something. So, but he has got some of the greatest quotes. I mean, he's obsessed with the sex magazines. He's obsessed with, oh my God, those monsters!
Man, it's monster central around here.
And what does he say? It's like a monster apocalypse out there or something. You know, like he's got some of the best lines ever in that trailer park fight. But anyway. It would have been real cool, but in the future, I will try to get a little more notice and get some of these cool guys on the podcast with us. But all right, let's jump into the beginning of Return to Swamp Thing.
I always like to credit people and stuff like that. The writer is Neil Cuthbert. He had some writing credits on Hocus Pocus, Mystery Men.
Spleen.
And then another co-writer was Grant Morris. And the only real claim to fame he has was Shrimp on the Barbie with Cheech Marin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
They credit of course Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson.
yeah,
But
Bernie
they-
Wrightson,
But they created
creator of Swamp Thing, yeah.
created artist,
Yeah.
and then Len Wein writer.
Writer,
But
yeah.
noteworthy is because he also created some of the best X-Men. I mean, like Nightcrawler, Colossus,
Yeah.
and Storm, and of course Wolverine.
I think that Bernie Wrightson, the artwork he did for Swamp Thing is some of my favorite comic book art
Absolutely.
of all time.
Yeah.
And I actually love.
It calls back almost to like the Tales.
Oh yeah, it
of
has that
styles,
EC
but
comic
yeah.
look, and I've always been, you know, they say there's two. Whoa, here's time for a who's cooler. I got it. Who's cooler? Swamp Thing or Man Thing?
Oh, something.
Oh, good. Good. I agree.
It's no contest. I mean, Man Thing's cool. Swamp Thing's more of an actual character to me. I mean, Man Thing to me at
It's
least.
an entity.
Yeah, it's exactly
Yeah.
the same word I was about to use.
Yeah. But I was told, and I'm not sure about this, but Man Thing came first.
Barely.
Oh,
Just-
barely. Okay.
Yeah, it's very close together, and that's only published date. For all you know, one was being created before the other one, and
Right.
it's
Well,
just
Swamp
published
Thing,
date, so-
man, just the roots of the bridge of the nose, the design of Swamp Thing to me is so special, and I love the Wes Craven film, but I love the look of Return
The
to Swamp
costume
Thing.
and the suit I love it so much.
Yeah. And I'll tell you
So
what I
much.
think is even better is I like the TV series suit better than Return to Swamp
I like
Thing
it.
suit.
I still prefer it.
And that's Tony Gardner he was a major part of the TV show Swamp Thing, but he helped, I think, on Return to Swamp Thing. I'm not positive.
I absolutely love the Return to Swamp Thing suit. It's not a I don't like this. I just have that much love for the Return of Swamp Thing. But part of that might be because I loved Swamp Thing so much,
Right.
but I hated the suit. I didn't
Yeah.
really like the suit.
No, that in the first one, they didn't know what they were making.
No,
They didn't know what they were
It looked
doing.
like a wetsuit half the time.
It
so.
looks like a wetsuit,
Yeah.
and Return to Swamp Thing looks like actual floral mass and living matter. And man, like I just mentioned before, the root bridge of the nose going down the nasolabial fold there, it's straight from the comic.
From the comic, and that was another thing too.
But the coolest thing about all three renditions of Swamp Thing of our childhood, not before this new thing coming, is Dick Durock played Swamp Thing every time.
Yep.
And I never got to meet Dick Durock. I never got to work with him or even meet him at a convention. But man, that was one guy on my list.
What is so funny is I knew it was Dick Durock for years, and I knew that he played it. And the thing was, before I had the internet and all of that, I didn't know what Dick Durock looked like, and I didn't realize that I had seen Dick Durock in plenty of other shit before.
Like what?
The first thing I ever saw, he was in the Nude Bomb. He's just playing a side character, but the Nude Bomb was the Get Smart movie.
Oh yeah.
And then I loved the Incredible Hulk TV show.
Of course.
He played the first, in my favorite episode, the first, which is the title character was the first Hulk.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And the Incredible Hulk fought the first Hulk, which is Dick Durock.
Yeah.
Because it was an old guy that turned into
So
Dick
both
Durock,
Dick Durock and Lou Ferrigno are two of my favorite all-time performers, but Dick Durock as Swamp Thing was awesome, and I was so sad when he passed that he would never get to do it again, because I thought it was so cool that he had played him in every rendition.
Well,
that's so rare.
Pancreatic cancer hit him hard because he was performing up until the last few years before he died, and he shriveled away, like literally.
Well, they are rebooting the series, and we'll talk about that at the end here. And I think the performer that they've got is gonna.
Have you seen the trailer?
No, I haven't seen the trailer. I just know him.
It's
from
horror.
Instagram.
It's horror, and I like telling at least what I'm seeing there.
So we'll get to that.
But Louis Jourdan, he returns as Dr. Arcane.
I've heard he was very, very difficult to work with too.
Well, the thing was, I'm sure there was other shit that happened, but Monique Gabrielle, who's also in it, and a lot of people call her. We talked about this last podcast. Do you consider her a scream queen? She's definitely known for her skin flicks and stuff like that.
I wouldn't go scream queen.
But a lot of people,
I wouldn't go scream queen.
I was reading up and said a lot of people consider her scream queen, and I didn't think so either.
Oh yeah, and
that was exactly the flip side of what we were talking about. How as a misnomer, what a scream queen is, and
honestly, she's not in a lot of horror films.
No, that was the point.
And Return of Swamp Thing is a monster movie, but it's not a horror film. It's a comic movie.
Yeah, but. The thing is she's Miss Poinsettia in the movie.
Yeah.
And Wynarski wanted Jourdan to refer to her as Points because of her ample bosom.
Yeah, of course.
And he wouldn't do it. He didn't want to do it. And he says this on the commentary, so this is out of his own mouth. He says Jourdan wouldn't do it because it was a sexual reference, and he knew it. And he's like, well, wait a minute, because he just finished a movie. He says, didn't you just come from a movie called Octopus? and incensed him that he would throw that at him, and they barely talked to the rest of the production.
That right there is Wynorski. He's got no patience for he's a super cool guy, and his stories are awesome.
I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. It's exactly what we were talking to prior to the cast about our friends. Mm-hmm. If you can't talk to your actors and get your movie made, they're there to make your movie. They're your tools. So you get a lot of Hollywood people, especially when we work on these low-budget things, where you pull in somebody like Malcolm McDowell or Luis or whatever it is, a known actor, and you bring them into this swamp and have them being chased around by monsters. If you can't get on there and command the set and say, then they have no respect for you anyway.
Yeah.
They're not going to
Well, he looks like he's very much dialing in that performance.
Well, he was. And also, Wes Craven speaks the same way, that it was very hard to work with.
Oh, yeah?
Like one take.
Well,
you definitely
gave a better performance in the first one. However...
Although the disappointment of the first one made him...
But it's not just that. The role in the first movie is much meatier.
Yeah.
Because in this one, he just does a lot of talking, and it's just, exposition, and that's pretty much what it is. But Sarah Douglas is in it. I always had a big crush on her.
Of course.
She's gorgeous. But, of course, she played Ursa, Kryptonian supervillain in Superman 2. She was in Puppet Master 3.
Of course.
Conan the Destroyer, not Barbara. Conan the Destroyer, and Return of the Living Dead 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. A multitude of other sci-fi and geek-oriented stuff, but those are the ones that are mainstays to me.
And then the Queen of the 90s.
What? Because I only think is Ace Mask plays Dr. Rochelle in that.
Yep.
And he played him in Not of This World. It was Not of This Earth.
Not of This Earth.
Yeah. He played him in that first, and Wynorski liked his character so much in that, he put Dr. Rochelle in this movie. Yep. And even though
it's just a stupid crossover.
Even though he doesn't make it out of this, well, he's seeming that doesn't make it out of this movie. He's in Ghoulies 4 is Dr.
Yep.
Rochelle too.
Yep.
But yeah, and you were saying, sorry, but
Queen of the 90s for me, of course, Heather Locklear.
yes,
And stepped into. This is where Return of Swamp Thing is kind of weird because it's almost remake-ish, but it's also not because she's playing the same character as Adrienne Barbeau. No. It's a different girl.
This is actually one of the weird things, is because I try to look at it as from the standpoint of, can you imagine the uproar nowadays? In the very first movie, Adrienne Barbeau is playing Alice Cable, which was a gender swapped character of Matt Cable, and they mixed basically Abby Arcane, who Heather Locklear's playing, and Matt Cable, which was a completely separate character that delved into the goings, investigated the shit, right?
Right.
The interesting thing about that is that Abigail Arcane, well, the change in that in this movie is that she's the stepdaughter in this
Dr.
movie.
Arcane.
But in the comic book, she's actually the niece of Dr. Arcane. And his brother, Giorgio, is married to her mother, and so she's the niece.
Okay.
But what's also interesting about that is Matt Cable is Abigail Arcane's first husband in the comic book.
Yeah, there's a lot of incest. That's good.
There's no incest. Matt Cable is not related to anybody, but that's the weird thing.
I'm just
Alice Cable is switched, and it ends up being the two love interests.
which do you prefer? Which do you prefer?
Movie-wise?
Abby Arcane.
Oh.
Yeah, in the movie.
Well, character-wise,
Who's cooler? Barbeau or Locklear?
Character-wise, I like the Alice Cable.
Yeah.
because
Oh, okay.
She's not just the damsel in distress.
See, I go for Abby Arcane because she's the dumb blonde that's not so dumb.
But she's hot, so she's hotter. I mean, Barbeau is Barbeau. She's
she's gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
And
Plus, I had one of my first crushes when she was on TJ Hooker and stuff. And, yeah. And she makes a couple of jokes about that TJ, what's his name?
Yeah.
And then there's also an in-joke about Motley Crue later on, because she was...
yeah. And it's that's the thing is so I was also a child of the 90s and I love Melrose Place. Of course, Heather Locklear was on that, and the whole Motley Crue thing. I mean, she was
the 80s.
Yeah. Yes, you are. You're much older than me, Jeff. You are an old man. But that all being said, I love Wes Craven's movie. But Wynorski's to me was always more fun. It was always a little more Toxic Avenger, a little more midnight movie madness.
Yeah, well, even when he brings her to his house or whatever, you told it reminded me of
yeah. And it has that, like Toxie 2 and Return of Swamp Thing kind of came out around the same time, so they were a great double feature. You know, that was a double feature.
I thought that's actually because. I'm mixing up a little bit here because we won't end up being able to do favorite death because there's not really much death in it, and there's not really memorable deaths of the people.
How about aside from Swamp Thing, favorite monster?
There's not a lot of monsters.
Oh, there's tons. They go through the whole factory with Elephant Pigman and this.
That's the one that only gets multiple shots. The only cockroach guy's pretty cool. The leech one's pretty awesome. That's the leech guy.
Yeah, giant leech man with the sun.
Just 3.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, there's 4, and then Dr. Rochelle's monster's kind of weak sauce. I mean, he's cool, but he doesn't even get an offensive move in.
Yeah.
He just gets tossed around.
The Leech fights well. But the rest don't really fight very well. But it does have a Dr. Moreau thing going where there's
absolutely.
all these.
I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah, I love that. I also love the ample amount of 4-wheelers splashing through the swamp.
Well, I want to get distracted off that because it was right at that moment when he's showing her how I thought it was so funny.
My middle name.
Well, because they had one moment in time when they met and they were like around each other for like 5 minutes. He tells her the story of how he came to be, and of course she loves plants, so of course she bonds with him.
She really loves plants.
She really loves plants. he saves her, of course, so he's thankful.
She loves plants akin to Catwoman loving
Right?
cats.
Well, I think that's so funny is because she's basically spent 5 minutes with him, and he rescues her, so of course she's grateful that he saved her life. But then he's like, oh yeah, let me show you my digs. And then she's like, she refers to her ex-boyfriends, but also in context to him. She's like, whoa, boyfriend. You know? And in the span of like 30 seconds, they have a whole entire relationship because it's, you know, oh yeah, my other boyfriend's on your boyfriend. Then she goes to touch, oh, please don't do that. This can never be. Then he's pulling out a piece of himself, eats it, and then having sex.
And that's kind of from the comic too, though.
No, yeah, but I think it's just funny.
But they just wrapped it up real quick.
It's so fast. And
they, the funny thing about it, I think it's his deep voice. She's like, oh, he's got a deep voice.
But
he
that's
must
not
be
even
a dude,
Durok's
right?
voice.
No, it's not.
It's so, but he didn't even know he was going to be dubbed.
Yeah.
Wynorski didn't until they were at the premiere.
Yeah.
Which is just weird.
It's wacky.
Yeah.
But still cool.
It had a Hercules in New York kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
The other scene that I thought was pretty funny is when the head of security, Gunn, has captured Abby and she's in the jail cell, and
he's such a douche.
Yeah, he is. But basically, he's trying to get something from her, and he teases her, and so he's all like, "Oh yes, you want out of here?" And nobody else is in the cell, and she gets smart with him, like, "Oh yeah, well." The company in here is better. And then he gets pissed off and he's like, what the hell? I'm trying to be nice to you. And then she's like, oh, well, my mistake. It's kind of hard being nice in here. So you want to let me out? It's like, he just offered to let you know. What are you talking about? But it goes to the campiness. And,
there's some pretty silly dialogue in the whole movie. There's amazing explosions in the swamp. There's, it's got, I think, an ample amount of rubber monsters.
The monsters are very cool. I will say that my one major complaint about the movie, and it's because that it parallels the first movie so much.
Yeah,
is the first movie has that really cool fight with Dr. Arcane as the whatever, like, hairy monster.
Yeah.
Hairy scare. And in this, he's been rejuvenated by Abigail. And then Dr. Zarel has tainted his tubes or whatever, and he's mutating. And so it looks like he's going to mutate into something else.
Yeah, he does.
And he literally just lays there while the place explodes and just watches it. And I'm like, no, where's my fight, man? We already had a fight halfway through the movie, and that was the coolest fight in the thing. And the only other stuff that he fights is Gunn.
Yeah.
Gunn blows his ass up halfway through the movie, and then every time he meets him, he gets less and less successful with his attack to the point that Swamp Thing literally stuffs a grenade down his pants and blows him up, and it's like, I wanted a fight scene, you know, and that was my big disappointment. It's because, like, that's the closest thing is Rochelle. That Zarel had done something to him, and so he comes out as that brain monster, and you're like, okay, well, he's gonna do something. He just gets thrown around like a little bitch,
like most smart things.
He's that's his attack. And that's my major complaint is like, because it's parallel, and even to the point that she dies and he brings her back to life. Where's my monster fight? You have all these cool monsters then, where's the monster fight?
It's expensive to make them work more than one day.
It's $7 million budget, man.
Well, back then, though, that is a super low budget movie. I mean, they were on location in Alabama. They shot on 35 millimeter film. They had jet skis and four-wheelers and sets and monsters. That goes
He literally
quick.
had his legs on my ass and just like...
Well, he did not want to. He didn't want to fight Swamp Thing.
Come on, Louis Jordan did not do the fighting in there. That was a stuntman. So what a guy in a suit.
They ran out of stuntmen. Wynorski pissed them all off and called them pussies.
You would have loved to have seen a fight scene.
I'd have got in that suit and did the fight scene.
Yeah, that's all.
If I was there, I've done that. Actually.
I know you have.
It sucked. I got my ass kicked by a pro wrestler. Bad. Because I insisted on putting the
That's
suit
my
on.
only major complaint about the movie is the climax, you want to see something bigger than what else has already happened, and nothing. He doesn't really do anything.
Right.
You know, he comes in, he picks her up, and they run out.
So what do you give Hypnoswirls?
So that's tough because it's like, there's so much entertainment, there's so much value for the costumes and the suits and the monsters.
Born on
and
the Bayou.
Oh, and that's actually my favorite CCR song.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a good 4.
I give it 7.
Oh, you broke the. Yeah, wait. You're breaking it on that? You just admitted that there should have been a monster fight.
No. You talked me into that. That wasn't my opinion. Listen. I give Return of Swamp Thing a 7 Hypnoswirls.
The last 2
hands
weeks,
down.
you did not break.
Doesn't matter. This is my opinion. I freaking love Swamp Thing. It is a big deal. Return of Swamp Thing in particular. And I do love the TV show. And I love the first movie. And I'm going to freaking love this new Swamp Thing.
I think so.
I think it's going to be the greatest movie ever made.
So you said we were going to talk about it.
And I haven't seen a trailer. I haven't seen anything.
Who plays Mears? Right?
Derek Mears, who played Jason in the last Friday the 13th installment.
He's been in
he's been in a lot of stuff.
He was recently in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a Kree.
He plays a lot of creature makeups. He's a good performer, hell of a nice guy, and he's going to own this character. He's a huge fan too.
This is just my brain. I don't know. Was he in the last Predator movie? The newest?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He's in the Predator movie too. Yeah. And he's one of those guys that loves performing in creature suits. So I was super nervous when I heard they were making the movie because all I thought was it's gonna be a CGI piece of shit. Like it's going to be CGI. And then it started popping up on Instagram, and I was like, Derek Mears playing. That's not motion capture. That's real. That's gonna be practical. And then he posted something 2 days ago that said just some hints of more practical work on Swampy, and I was like, whoa! And it looked awesome.
I do want to. This does go to budget on Return of Swamp Thing. And I understand.
Yeah.
I just think it would have been cool if we could see some sort of plant attack, because I know that he does.
Right. Controlling the plants.
Yeah. And I wish I could have seen that, and stuff, because I know he literally throws a grenade a couple of times.
So I'm not sure that it does go to the budget as much as what I told you, like Wynorski's patience. Doing those reverse shots.
I would have liked to see him do something other than just beat people. And
I honestly, and the whole, lay down to die at the end, that's just him saying, we're done making this movie.
But Jordan looked like he was done too. He's just okay, let's just.
We're done. This has been a month-long shoot, and I'm over it.
Well, the thing is, though, is they had a 30-day shoot. They finished in 27 days.
Yeah. That's exactly what I mean.
Usually when a director go over. Yeah, but they'll milk all the time they have and go over. Yeah.
But he moves really, really fast. He makes movies in 2 days, and usually there's things like The Hills Have Thighs, and they just shoot ladies back and forth on a dolly and don't cut. And I did pickup shots for him on a movie called Piranaconda, and I mean, we had all day, and we rushed through this thing like no tomorrow. There was no tomorrow, and it was literally, we just got to spray some goo. Let's get it in the right spot. It was crazy. But there's a great documentary about him that came out, and it's got a really weird title. I was there when they were shooting it. It's really cool. I'm going to put the title in the description on YouTube because you should check out at least the.
I love that. I love that kind of shit.
I
didn't know that.
It's really awesome, and it's got a real weird name. I'm gonna think about it in 2 seconds when producer Waleed pulls it up online, and it's called Papatopoulos. It's called Papatopoulos, and it's really good, and you get to see inside his life. It's interesting. He started with Corman at the time that Joe Dante and a lot of the other up-and-coming 80s directors, Mick Garris, all those guys. And he just went a different direction. He went the Fred Olen Ray direction instead of the Dante direction. And I don't fault him for any of it. I love Ghoulies 4. I think it's crazy and kind of stupid, but it calls back to the first one, which the other two don't.
Mentioned that.
And then And I also love that because he has no patience for the puppets, he just put little people in suits so he can tell them what to do. It's like, they're ghoulies, but they look completely different. It doesn't matter. Yeah, new Swamp Thing I think is going to be awesome. I'm super excited. I'm a little nervous how excited I am because I haven't been this excited.
I'm just disappointed that they, for whatever reason, we talked about that, I can't remember.
What?
It was supposed to be a recurring series. This was first season was supposed to be 13 episodes.
Right, yeah.
And then just out of the blue, the production was blindsided and said, after they finished the 10th episode, no, this is your last episode. We're doing rewrites. This is going to be the end of the series. It's 10 episode series now.
Yeah.
And now the 10th episode is going to be the series finale. And
okay.
Nobody on the production, at least, has openly said why. And most of the actors don't know anything. Don't understand what happened, and everybody seemed to have been very happy with how things were going.
Well, that's an interesting thing, and I wonder if it has something to do legally with rights or something. All right, so before we get onto our what do we call the new ones? Do we have a new thing? A title for the new one? We got the Flashback Feature and
something new.
Yeah, we got something new. We got something new for you guys. Maybe, hey, if anybody has any great names for the segment for something new, put it in the comments. Shoot us a link. Or
any questions about anything, right?
Yeah, any questions. If you guys want to know anything, let us know. And we'd love to answer in the comments. And if you got any ideas for us, we'll listen to them. I don't know that we'll take them. I'm not good at taking them. Anyway, so here's our modern horror. I don't know. Send us a name. What are we going to call this? You tell us. I don't know what to call it.
The Death House, established in 1954 under the Eisenhower administration, serves as a federal maximum security prison, medical, psychological, and parapsychological research center.
Agent Novak, meet your fellow graduate, Agent Toria Boone.
Welcome to Death House. Does it live up to what you study?
Ask me again in 12 hours.
Some are dosed with just LSD, while others are subjected to electroshock, sensory deprivation, all to break down the subject's personality.
They've got some surprises waiting for you and your girl here.
Our goal is to eradicate evil.
I will fuck you in hell.
Did Sieg ever mention Death House to you? Ever any talk of the 5 evils?
I know this house is insane, and I know that you have to be careful.
Don't you have something special lined up to kill everybody inside this hellhole?
Tell me you're both armed.
What about the 5 evils? You know something.
I know everything, Novak.
Redmayne!
We gotta find a way up.
I am immortal.
We need to get out of here.
I will follow you to hell. The way out is not that way. It's down to them. With me.
We forgot to close the elevator shaft.
There's a movie that just came out. It wasn't a major, huge release. It did have a small theatrical release. It's been in post-production or in a sales holdup for years, and they coined it the Expendables of horror, and that movie is called Death House. Death House, I actually know some of the producers. I just recently worked on a film called Killer Rose with the producer Rick Finkelstein, who owns Entertainment Factory. The AD on Death House directed a film I worked on called Camp Twilight. And of course, Felissa Rose, who's a great friend of the Monster Museum, is involved with all of this. She's a producer on Death House, Camp Twilight, Killer Rose. So these are a bunch of close colleagues of mine. And I usually have a little bit of a hard time watching colleagues' productions that I wasn't involved with. And it's not for any other reason than, like, I'm a real honest guy and I have a hard time, like, biting my tongue. So if they're like, oh, what did you think about the movie? I'll usually be like, you know, if I didn't like it, I have a hard time not saying, yeah, you needed some help, you know, like, what was going on? And so I reluctantly watched Death House for two reasons. One is somebody that we had at the museum recently, a celebrity, told me it was unwatchable. And that kind of piqued my interest in some weird way. I was like, this is a huge production that a lot of my friends put their heart and soul into. And for it to be unwatchable is hard for me to believe. And then two was, we're doing this podcast and I want to give an honest expression of what I think of things. You know, even though it's silly and funny when I go off the scale with my ratings, that's because I feel that way. I really fucking love Swamp Thing. And for that, I want to be honest about what I like or dislike. And if I'm being told that a movie that I know a lot of people busted their butts doing, that has some weird hometown ties to me too, and I'll talk about that, and then to hear it's unwatchable by somebody who I trust their opinion on film, I just wanted to see it, and I'm going to tell you right now, I don't agree. I don't agree that it's unwatchable.
Well, you watched it, so.
I loved it. I loved watching it. I viewed it by myself because I didn't want to put anybody through torture they didn't have to go through. And I was so pleasantly surprised and kind of bummed out that I didn't have a couple buddies to be like, oh, shoot, look at there. You know, it's there. And here's the thing. I'm not a huge Expendables fan. And they had been using this Expendables of horror kind of tagline.
I mean, they even did the
logo. The logo,
very harkens.
So I don't have a ton to compare it on. I did see the first Expendables, but I didn't mind the comparison. I felt like it was right. There's a ton of cameos. Before I get into the movie too much, I will say a weird hometown thing is, so I have an old assistant that worked with me up through Poultrygeist. His name's Tyler Dolph. Tyler is no longer an active effects guy. He still works in haunts once in a while, but he has moved back to my hometown where he was originally from, and I didn't know him growing up. He was a little bit younger than me. He became my student in LA when I was teaching at Cinema Makeup School. We worked together for years, did Poultrygeist. After that, he stayed back in Pennsylvania. He worked on one other movie there, which was Brutal Massacre. And Brutal Massacre, if I'm not mistaken, has a lot of the same crew as Death House. I know that Gunnar Hansen, who passed away, but he was Leatherface, is in Brutal Massacre pretty heavily. And he also
he wrote the story.
He wrote Death House, and he has like a part in it where he's a hologram. Yeah. And then they also dedicated the film to him. So the weird thing about Tyler is his childhood best friend is a guy named Matt. And Matt is a DP he's in the camera department. He works on a lot of low-budget films. The first time he ever DP'd a film was Death House. So that was the first time he ever shot a movie. Now, I had heard through Tyler that Matt might have said, we could have done better with the cinematography. The movie's convoluted, yada, yada. As somebody who works on low-budget independent films, I get it. Every movie I come off of, we could have done this better. We could have done that better. We tried here, we tried there, but we got it done. That's what we do. For this to be the first thing this kid ever shot, I've never met Matt. I did briefly, but I don't know him. But what I can say is everything complicated in that movie, shot-wise, looked great. All the low-light scenes, all the dungeon stuff, all the dark, the hard stuff looked great. The daylight stuff and like the office area, well, it was flat. It was a little bit flat. But it didn't bother me knowing that it was a first-time DP that had never done a feature film. It looked incredible. A weird other thing is the director, whose first name is Harrison. I don't know his last name. Harrison is also from East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, which is my hometown.
He wrote the screen.
He wrote the screenplay and directed
Gunnar
it.
Hansen's.
Yeah. And I believe he was maybe the writer-director from Brutal Massacre. I'm not positive about that. But Harrison has gone on to make some other films. He's a talented guy, but from hearing all this negativity about this movie, I was like, wow, this is weird. This guy's from East Stroudsburg. Matt, who shot it, from East Stroudsburg. I'm from East Stroudsburg.
I think I understand it, though, because you're touting all these stars. You're touting it as the Expendables, as collection thing, and you're raising this bar before people have any idea what they're about to see. And so then when they see it, you've put up expectations that even if somebody likes it, it's hard to meet them. You know what I mean? So I think that's what happened there.
Yeah, maybe. And here's the thing. It's one of those instances where it took a long time to come out. It took a long time to get distribution. And so when it finally did come out, like I said, I was hesitant to watch it. I watched it for the podcast, and I'll tell my piece on it right now. I think that it was a new take on a horror film. And I've seen prison movies. I've seen Assault on Precinct 13. I've seen some pretty cool prison movies. But I never saw a prison movie with the twist that this film had. And there's some digital effects, some transitions, some digital stuff, not character-wise, but like elevator shafts and weird stuff. That looks a little bit early 90s. It doesn't.
Well, I'll tell you, that's kind of how I felt about the movie. It's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag. Some of it's good, some of it's great, some of it's not good. Some of it's really rough, and it's weird because it's like it keeps you on your toes because it's like,
you're like, where is this going? Where is this going?
Well, the thing for me is I don't have these connections. I don't have.
Which is fine because that's a general audience.
It's harder for me to cut it any slack. But I don't deem it unwatchable by any means.
Right.
And it kind of like in a totally different way, but kind of like I was saying about Hellboy last week, is there's some really good stuff there.
Yeah.
And there's just some stuff that really isn't, and so it makes a really big yo-yo effect for me. The thing that bothered me most about the movie was that it was reaching for ambitions that it can't reach. That I think the ideology of what's going on there, because it's got some lofty aspirations, and it can't possibly meet them, not just because of budgetary, but because there's so. To me, I'm not. They're trying to explain some. That's actually where the movie started to lose me, was when they're trying to explain.
Towards the end.
Yeah, when they and the mystery was actually more fascinating to me than when they're trying to throw explanation at me.
I think what I liked about it was it just was so far out of left field. Like, I did not watch the movie thinking that I had no idea how it was going to end. I thought the whole place would blow up and we'd all. I don't know. I just didn't get that there was some spiritual
I didn't like
realm.
The ending seemed a bit abrupt to me too.
Oh yeah,
and
to me that's a no budget feature. Like, we're out of time. Let's finish it.
Well,
wrap this baby up.
And the other thing too is because they're going so lofty with it, but they say that there's other death houses, but everybody there is like supposed to be, the apex of everything, and so well. Really? Because everybody seems to be right here. Yeah. But there's other death houses, including the Big Five. Everybody's here. So,
well, and I technically, when I watch lower budget, it has nothing to do with the budget, but it's when I watch a B movie of people that have tried to make something decent. Now, I have to say, in my own life, my wife was a director. We made a movie called Gould Creek. It was incredible. We killed the wrong girl at the end. It was an accident.
Yeah.
It was an accident because I thought that she should die and the pretty one should live, and I was wrong. Like, the one that died should have been our survivor girl. But when you're in the moment and you're working your ass off and you're engulfed by script numbers and this and that and your effects list, you don't always see the whole picture, and that's where seasoned vets of low budget film, the Mike Pfeiffers, the Charles Bands, kind of, the dudes that have done this 100 times. They know what they're doing. They know where they're going. They know how to end it. When you're giving somebody who wishes they were directing Independence Day 2 the opportunity to be directing a low-budget horror film, they're giving it that, like, we have to go over this major scope, and I think their eyes get bigger than their plate. Yes. And that's something that
I think might have benefited that movie, though, and I understand why they're doing that. Or the Expendables, don't do that.
Yeah.
Count on the people just looking at the cast list and going, holy shit, look who's in this movie. Because as soon as you attach that stigma to it, people are expecting to see so-and-so in it for so much longer.
Right.
Because some of those people are just, hey, I mean...
Hey, that's Danny Trejo.
Yeah. and some of them do play a very prominent role. And some of it, and that's the thing, is it's like, well, as soon as you see somebody's name there, you're hoping that they're going to play a bigger role. And then when they're...
What people did you spot? Who did you spot or not spot?
Well, I mean, there's Tony Todd, Bill Moseley, Dee Wallace, Kane Hodder, Sid Haig.
Gunnar Hansen's got a small little thing in there.
You said that.
I saw Trejo in the back.
Yeah,
I saw Tiffany Shepis, who's a trauma girl, which is awesome.
Crampton.
Barbara Crampton. Yeah. I saw, you said Dee Wallace. Bill Moseley I thought was great.
Yeah, he's really great. But that's...
Felissa's in there, of course.
Yeah. But I think that's the biggest shortcoming, though, is that...
Debbie Rochon. I saw Debbie Rochon, and that's awesome, because I didn't know she was ever going to act again.
I think that if they had...
Brink Stevens?
If they had just made it and counted on people to go, what is this? Holy shit, look at who's all in this fucking movie. Now, you've just raised the expectation of what this little movie is, Death House. Yeah. Just because, whoa, what the hell is this? And then they go on based on curiosity as opposed to touting it with all these people. Right. It's the Expendables. And now, that bar is not so high that you can only go up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it was a pleasant surprise for me, because when somebody tells me something's unwatchable, all I can think about is the world of Asylum I used to work in.
Well, there you go. They knocked the bar down.
When I worked on Asylum films, and we were doing stuff like Super Croc, when we were doing stuff like Transmorphers 2, these were actually unwatchable movies. There's a bunch of people standing in a room talking about military garbage that's not accurate or correct, that's not even funny. And they're really boring movies.
Oh, Michael Berryman.
Michael Berryman was in there. There's so many. That's kind of my fun. Like, I had so much fun picking out people in the background, and I don't know, I was pleasantly surprised that A, it didn't go where it always goes. B, it did have just random crazy, not star-studded cast, but Easter eggs of cast. And then the thing for me was that it was like some of the lab scenes and going over what Death House is, I just shut off my brain. I'm not listening anymore. It doesn't matter.
And I think actually, too, that logo hurt, too, because you're seeing all these iconic imagery in it, and it has nothing to do with the movie at all.
Yeah. And so I could take that B movie and say, I'm pretty good at finding things I like in most low-budget crap movies. Oh. And so saying that, A, it was different than I expected. I heavily disliked the CGI, but it was so early 90s Sega CD looking that it almost worked for me.
That's actually the best thing that I ever read. It reminds me of Sega CD.
It looked like Sega CD.
But in a good way, too.
Yeah, like Sewer Shark.
Vernon Wells is the other one I just remember.
Oh, yeah, Vernon Wells got a good part in there from Road Warrior. It was just one of those, I don't know, it was one of those movies where, like, I found something in it that I didn't expect.
The coolest part for me was when they're trying to hide from the inmates and those, like, skinned people are still alive, and that girl one is just screaming in the microphone, And I love the effects right
so
there.
that
And
Roy Kinnear and Soda Effects did a fabulous job. Like, usually I would follow watching a movie like that with texting the producer and being like, oh, great movie, you should have had me do the effects. He didn't need me. Roy did a great job, and he gave it his all. He didn't phone it in. You know, it was like he actually made some creature suits, and they put, the blood and guts was awesome. There was a scene where there was a hood over a guy, and he slices the throat, and it was so freaking like spray flash dark blood. It looked awesome.
For me, that kind of stuff was absolutely incredible. I would say that like a head scratching thing too is those five, the gathering of the five. They're wearing these like weird like sci-fi costumes, and it's like
that was
I just kind of cocked my head. It was like, what? It didn't make sense to me. You know, it's like, why are you wearing those? You know, and how did that connect to it? And things like that is what makes me confused about this movie with the really cool shit, you know? And then that's just I'm just throwing that in because that's the kind of thing that makes me not love the movie as much as like the effects were doing.
Right.
Were just like,
I mean,
who made that creative choice and why?
Exactly.
You know?
and that it is exactly what you said, a head scratcher. Like, I don't know what
it didn't look awful.
You
It
know?
didn't look bad.
It's just weird. Doesn't
it
fit.
didn't make sense to me. Yeah.
It's like the Sega CD transitions. You know, they didn't even need that. They could have just cut those out.
They could have been sitting in their inmate uniforms. Honestly,
yeah. The movie could have lost maybe 17 to 20 minutes, and I'd be okay.
Yeah.
But it felt a little bit long, a little bit talky at times. I think if you keep the blood and guts on the screen, if you keep the horror icons on the screen, anytime Kane was strapped to that thing talking, it was terrifying.
Well, that's the thing is, as soon as they started delving into the grander ambitions of what was actually going on, I think it was trying to be bigger than it needed to be and trying to explain itself away where, again, I think the mystery of it, you could have still gotten away with it by not trying to answer questions.
Right. Well, leave it up in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good, I mean...
And left
what's
it open
done is done.
Well, especially since they kind of closed the book on it because they leave it there and then the two protagonists walk away and it's just kind of like they left it hanging anyway. So you just did all this explaining, but then they left it open. So it's like, I don't think they needed to explain.
So here's something that I was really stoked about and didn't really understand is the fact that really one of the leads of that entire movie was Dee Wallace.
Yeah.
I mean, she was a major part in that movie. And we see her cameo all the time. I don't see her front run a movie anymore. Like, she just doesn't do it very often. And I thought...
Critters now.
Yeah, I guess the new Critters, supposedly. I haven't seen it yet, but...
She was filming some other one recently, too.
But it's pretty cool to see her stepping back into it and also embracing... I mean, we're talking about a Hollywood actress. The Howling, the E.T., the Critters franchise, the Critters 1. Cujo.
Because that's horror. That was a mainstream movie.
Yeah, and it's... And to come out on Death House the way she did, I was pretty stoked. Like, I don't know. It wasn't nostalgia. It wasn't anything except me going, yeah, she's back. Like, that's pretty cool. And her acting chops were fine. Like, she was serious and on playing. Her, Barbara Crampton, they make a great pair.
We're actually, and that's kind of my point, though, is like, you feature both of them in such prominent roles. Kane Hodder in such prominent roles. And then some guys are like, oh, hey, there's some... Oh.
Yeah.
We're going to see them again? Nope.
But I kind of like that. I really do kind of like that. I like the that was you know.
Still trying to think of his name.
I like that. You know, I think it's great. But yeah, I don't know. I'd say on the scale of 1 to 5, I give this one a solid 3. And
that's where I'm at.
And I think it would have been a hell of a fun shoot. I would really. This is the level of film I usually work on. I enjoy this level of movie. I like the creative control.
I have to say that I actually was really impressed with Kane's performance because it looked like he was really taking it seriously.
Oh, he was. Yeah. I mean and there was points where you could read his face like I don't know. He was telling the story with his eyeballs, And he does speak in it. I mean, he does act. He's,
that's my exact point.
He was really good and pretty scary. Like, you don't want to be stuck in a room with that guy, you know. And I thought that the five at the end of the movie, we're spoiling, you know, whatever. There's five, like, of the worst evils of all evil, you know, or whatever. And but they're not really evil. They're just kind of, I guess, powerful. I'm not sure. But Bill Moseley's performance was like a Shakespearean, you know, he's telling tongue twisters, and it was awesome. I thought he did great, delivered awesome. The book ending with Tony Todd was really weird.
Yeah, that's almost like the old man in Night of the Demons.
Yeah. he was like, that truck was awesome that he had, though. Like, that's production value. For me, I see that truck, and I'm like, where'd they get that truck? That thing was so badass.
Like, the whole first beginning, he's like digging in her stomach, and
that girl Nicole is, I don't know if this was her first part. I've worked with her before.
Okay.
And she is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I see a future for her. And maybe this was an early role for her, because I felt like,
because it was filmed years ago.
Yeah, where's the, I mean, she's just a victim and she's getting poked at or whatever, but like, that girl's awesome. I plan on putting her in a movie that I want to do.
Well, so, to me, clearly, it's alluding to the sequel, but
yes,
if it ever gets one,
I don't know if it ever will, but I do know that those guys are on fire. They're making a bunch of stuff right now, and I have a lot of faith, and all of their stuff it's kind of their thing. They star-stud their, you know, cast. I call it like the convention casting. You know, it's like, when you convention cast like that, when you show up at Fangoria or Monster Blues or Chill or whatever it is, you get to have a panel with everybody in the room on it. It's a marketing thing, you know, and it may have hurt the film in some ways, but in other ways it helps the marketing. I mean, Adam Green did it with the Hatchet franchise. Rob Zombie's done this time and time again. You give that full convention cast, you have a fan base built in.
Well,
unfortunately, the fan base turned on this.
Well, you don't have to pay them as much either, because they're only showing up so you can keep the budget down, right?
But that's a weird thing. So, like, I know an actor like Tony Todd, for a one-day cameo, is going to charge you upwards of $10,000, like $30,000. For a full feature film, he might charge you $3 to $5 a day. So, if you're using them for marketing purposes, they can charge a lot more money than if they're getting a starring role that's their show.
Wow.
So, and that's based off
I'm
of
the noob here.
Yeah, no, that's based off of a local filmmaker just shared with me that's how it goes.
Basically, what I was implying in here, inferring or whatever the hell, was instead of getting 2 or 3 big names for tens of thousands, you know, like hundreds of thousands, whatever
it is.
You know, you get a whole bunch of names, and then you only have to use them for a day or 2, maybe 3 days, and you know, and you're spreading your budget amongst and you have all this name recognition.
I believe that's where Felissa comes in as a producer too, because she's not doing script breakdowns and stuff. You know, she's not collecting other investors. What she's doing is bringing all these names because she's friends with everybody. So, hey, do a favor, come out here. Oh, hey, come on, let's do this for a day, and just bringing all those people in. I think that's where she's very useful in that team, as she brings a lot of cast members, and also me as an effects guy. She's on several occasions said, "You're my guy. We're going to go do this," and I'm like, "Okay, let's go." You know, I'll do anything she says because I know that whatever she's working on, there's heart. You know, otherwise she wouldn't be there. Because she does it for fun. So, Death House, in my eyes, I think that if you guys give it a watch, understand this is not a Universal Studios production. This is an Entertainment Factory production, which is working their way up to Lionsgate status. But what you should get out of it is this thing got finished and it's out there. It's on Netflix and it's fun.
What I would implore people is, because at least what I see in general is people seem to just condemn something or embrace something.
Yeah.
You know, it's either it was awesome or it sucks ass.
Yeah.
Even if you are having a hard time with something, if you've already stuck it and you know you're going to commit to doing, try to find the things you do like about it.
Exactly.
You know? Because just because you think something is sucky, or even if that doesn't mean that there's nothing good to find there. And sometimes there's some really awesome shit that, because you've already made up your mind, well, man, this is the way, you miss out on some really cool shit.
So you kind of tapped on what I believe is the death of the cult classic. And when we were younger, we would go to the video store. And when you go to the video store, you put out your $2, you rent your tape. You got your tape for the whole weekend, whether it's Dr. Giggles or,
I'm not going back
Night of the Creeps.
That's the movie we got.
You got a freaking tape, and you're committing to watch it. And you're going to watch that movie all the way through before you return it. Yeah. And it might be late if you didn't get all the way through, because you're going to watch it again until you get through it. But by committing to that tape over the weekend, there might be slow, boring parts. There might be some weirdness, but you're going to find those elements that are so crazy and outlandish and fun that makes it the tape you tell your friends about. Sleepaway Camp Part 1. Oh, it's just a Friday the 13th ripoff. No, get to the end, because there is a twist at the end of that movie. Dr. Giggles, a boy hides in his parents' belly. Like, that's disgusting and weird.
Shit, I could even, I don't care what anybody fucking says. Sixth Sense is not a very exciting movie until you find out the twist.
Until you get to the twist.
If you don't get to the twist, that movie is pretty slow. So what happens if you didn't get to the existentialism
And that's the thing
moment,
with streaming today. People start a movie like Death House or pick your movie. They start it. They get 30 minutes in and they're like, meh, click next.
There's so much shit to watch.
Click next. And they never finish it. So they don't know, wow, this was really different. This is weird.
I remember the first time I watched Dead Alive.
Of course.
The first half, I was so tired. And in the first half hour was a slow boil. And then I was falling asleep. And I almost shut up. And I got to the cemetery scene, and I perked up, and the rest of that movie was a rock and roll. Yeah.
And think about something like, I'll give you, what about Dusk Till Dawn?
Right.
Like, a horror fan sits down, a Tarantino movie, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We get through and we're like, a Tarantino bankroll. I've seen this.
It's a crime drama, man.
Well, this is stupid. And then vampires and titties and blood and
on the flip side, I took somebody and they thought it was a Tarantino movie, and they were like, hey, you like the movie? It's awesome. It's so great. I was like, oh, yeah, just wait until see what happens. And, of course, they gave me the stink eye and didn't talk to me for days after that. But the whole point was they didn't know what was going to hit them. And actually, the rest of the people with us absolutely loved it after that, But, you don't know.
The thing is, with right now, in today's climate, you put on the new Pet Sematary. I've seen this movie before.
Yep, right. We talked about that,
I've seen this movie before. Click, next. And you'll never know. And that's what happens. I love this VHS revival that's going around, because people are seeing movies like Night of the Demons, like Dr. Giggles, and it's one of those.
Shutting off Night of the Demons before you got the lipstick.
Yeah, it's right? Crazy. But so when I watched Death House, I made it a point to think, like, if there's a slow point, and it's not just Death House, it's any independently made film. Listen, making movies is hard. I've done it. It's hard. You got to cut a little slack, and when you get to the end, go, hey, that was a little bit different, and wow, there was a whole lot of icons in that movie.
And everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Sure.
But you know what? If you think you can fucking do better, then go do it.
Do it. And show us. Show everybody.
See it then.
And it might be great. So, when you hit play on a movie, try to stick it out. And the same thing with, it's tough with iTunes and everything with music. It's like everything's on a random. You don't just listen to a CD back to front anymore. And that's tough. So, anyway, let's move on to if Jeff can get it together and survive.
I'm going to live someday,
We're
man.
going to spin the wheel.
They wanted to see something different, but something different saw them first. The Hills Have Eyes.
Pluto from The Hills Have Eyes. Mutant Madman. Michael Berryman himself.
Well, I mean, you got Hills Have Eyes and you got Hills Have Eyes too. So even if I get away, I mean, this is like the Hostel situation where, you know, even though he lived past the first movie, he's still going to kill my fucking ass in the second one?
Only if you go on a dirt bike race and have to cut through the desert.
Well then, you know, and then even if I make it to the house that turns blue, then he's still gonna fucking find me with him and his mutant friends and you know, weird science.
Oh, Vernon Wells comes out there too.
You know, I got too much respect for Michael Berryman. I can't even conceive living past that one because I would gladly die at his hands.
So do you think he eats you while you're alive, or he eats you when you're dead?
Hopefully when I'm dead.
Because there's an awesome Hills Have Eyes song, and I can't find the song anymore, but it goes like, the hills have eyes, they'll eat you alive. The hills have eyes. It's
like,
awesome.
hey,
It was.
yeah,
It's
you see
awesome.
me like, hey, what's for dinner tonight? Oh, Chinese.
Ah, that was good. That was good. Mugu Jeff Pan. All right, and
Dream of not so young guy.
let's jump over to the Waleed top 3. Waleed, our producer, we have this awesome segment now called Waleed Top 3, and this is Waleed's top 3 favorite cannibals.
Top 3 favorite cannibals?
Fine young ones do not count.
Let's see. The whole family from the Sawyer family, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay, all right.
Does that whole family count as?
Yeah, that's a feast. I'll take that.
Hannibal Lecter.
Okay, that's a good cannibal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially that part where he's feeding the guy his own brain too. He's like having him try it out. And, like movie cannibals.
Yeah.
Yes, we're gonna.
Okay, we're not gonna do like Albert Fish or something
No.
like that.
How about Judge Dredd? That's like the best part of Judge Dredd.
And
Let's not influence.
Just saying. And the Curtis Sturgis, yeah.
No, we're not gonna influence.
Well, I mean, they're basically the.
I was only thinking because that like Mean Machine's badass.
I worked with him. Ron. Lon. His name is
so
Lon.
awesome.
He was
They're essentially
in
like cyborg Sawyer family, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Well,
yeah.
Angel families over
The skies are blue and all the hills are green. My heart says warm as a baked potato.
I don't know what that was.
Oh, that's from Cannibal the Musical, Alfred Packer.
Oh,
he's great. He was the best.
Shit.
Have to say exactly what I mean when I say it's a squidonical day.
Well, Hills Have Eyes.
There you go.
They're cannibals.
They are.
Yeah.
There you go.
They always travel in packs too.
That's where the segue was.
That's exactly where it came from.
Yeah.
That's okay. Way to come do it on your own, bud.
Yeah.
So we've got the Sawyer family.
Hills Have Eyes.
Hills Have Eyes. And Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal Lecter.
All right, good top 3. All right, so that's Midnight at the Monster Museum, episode number 6.
Six.
I'm Tom, this is Jeff, that's Waleed, and then nighttime is the break time. Talk to you guys next week.